All right, let's get into it. Look, if you're involved in the running of a community sports club anywhere on the planet right now, there's a pretty good chance that you're feeling at least one of these three things. Number one, the club has a cash problem. Number two, the club has a time problem. Or number three, the club has a people and a volunteer support problem. And if you're really in the trenches, it's quite possibly all three. Now, community sports clubs across the world are all facing the same problem. That problem is time. Time is the real currency in community sport right now, and it's a currency that's weaker than it's ever been. There's probably a handful of passionate volunteers, people like you, with a full-time job, a family, you've got your life admin going on, everything else. And then on top of that, you're trying to run the community sports club. Realistically, at times, it's quite possibly a third priority at best, and yet the workload you're carrying looks more like a full-time job. This is the mismatch. Now, you're probably wanting to grow the club, modernize the club, and keep up with performance both sides of the white line. In reality, you're more than likely only able to sustain, possibly even just survive. And that's hard. It's really hard. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I sat down with Prantik Mazumdar, father, sports tech entrepreneur. He's an investor. He's a proper lover of sport. And he's one of those guys who sees solutions where most people only see problems. And we spoke about this exact theme: cash poor, time poor, people poor. And it really landed with me the way to describe where so many clubs find themselves right now. Today, I want to unpack that conversation and give you deeply practical solutions you can actually act on this year to completely change the relationship that you have with your sports club. Now, this isn't a theory. This is how to fix the money. It's how to fix the time and how to fix the people side so that your club isn't just surviving, it's growing, it's stable, and it feels good to be a part of. So let's start with the one that hurts the most. And for most clubs, that's cash. And when I look at most clubs, I see 5 big cash-specific problems. Number one, clubs don't know their numbers. And this is the foundation. Most clubs don't have basic metrics that support exactly what's happening. And I don't mean a rough sense of what's in the bank right now. I mean proper metrics that any serious operation should know. So what metrics are we talking about? Total gross revenue, everything that comes in through the door. And what is your net revenue? What's actually left once costs are removed? What's your monthly burn rate? How much is going out the door every month on average? And then we dive deeper into that burn rate. What percentage is going on rent or ground hire? How much is on utilities and bills? Facility upkeep and maintenance, pitches, lights, repairs. How much is going on staffing or coaching fees, product or equipment, balls, cones, bibs, nets, cricket balls, whatever it might be, whatever the sport, those costs are there, taxes. Then we go deeper into the member side. Member acquisition cost. How much do you need to spend on marketing to bring in a single fully paid up member? What's the average member duration? How long does a typical member stay at the club? Is it 1 year? Is it 3? Is it 10? What's your annual member retention rate? What percentage renew each year? What's your average annual member spend on memberships, match fees, kit, bar? And how much will a member typically spend over the course of an average year with you? Trial lists to paid up members. What's your conversion rate? Out of all the free trials, taster sessions, first visits, how many people actually convert and stay? And now here's the kicker. If you don't know these numbers, you cannot make strong financial decisions. You're guessing, you're hoping, you're reacting. You don't know where to invest. You don't know what you can afford. And you don't know where things are quietly going wrong. And that's where a lot of the problems start, not with bad intentions, but with a complete lack of visibility. So step one for this year, make a commitment to knowing your numbers. Morning. Now, even if you're not a finance person, let's get through this door. Reach out to your extended network, reach out to your members. Who is a finance person that will understand cash leakage, which is the second massive problem? Most clubs have no idea how much money they're actually losing every year because again, they don't know their numbers. And to be fair, it's understandable. I'd say maybe 1 in 50 sports clubs has a treasurer with any kind of accounting background. Now, from what we see across the network, we estimate around 14% of potential income leaks out of the club every single year. 14%. Where does it go? It's unpaid match fees and memberships. You chase 3 times, you send a few messages, and eventually you just write it off at the end of the year. Normally the same members as well. Clothing and merchandise taken without proper tracking. The odd hoodie here, a pair of shorts there, a cap that isn't logged. Old stock just sitting in a cupboard or a storeroom, not displayed, not marketed, not listed anywhere, and eventually sold off at a loss or thrown away. 14% doesn't sound like a terrifying amount of money, but if you translate it, if your club is doing £100,000 per year through the books, that's £14,000 leaking out of the system year after year. That's the cost of setting up a youth program, a facility upgrade, that's floodlights. So yes, the headline is clubs are cash poor, but the subheading is a lot of cash is already there, it's leaking out of the system. Now the third big issue is margins. And margin misunderstanding, particularly in non-profit clubs, which is a huge number of clubs. Now, a lot of clubs we speak to, especially those registered as a non-profit or a charity, don't run the club like a business, and they must. So let's clear up a huge mindset problem. Non-profit does not mean no margin. It doesn't mean you should aim to break even. There's always costs you're not expecting. And there's always a member that doesn't pay on time, and any club that targets break even is running at a loss, I almost guarantee it. What not-for-profit means is there are no private stakeholders taking dividends out of the club, and the proceeds get reinvested back into the club, into the facility, the programs, and the community. But to reinvest anything, you need something left over. So my position is simple. You must aim for a target 20% margin on everything. That's memberships, match fees, training fees, clothing, merchandise, events, tours, camps. Whatever you're selling, you must make a margin and then reinvest it at the end of the season once it stacks. In an absolute worst case scenario, you've created flexibility. Now, yes, you've got to keep your eye on tax thresholds and compliance in your region. That's important, but you mustn't be afraid of growth, multiplications, and making a surplus. If you finish the year in the black, fantastic. Now do something intelligent with that surplus. You can put a portion into a rainy day fund, or better yet, create an endowment style pot. Work with a finance professional to place some of that revenue, those savings, into a low to moderate risk investment. Could be property, stocks, funds, and they'll yield the club 5 to 7% or more every single year. Now all of a sudden, your money is working for the club. It's not just sitting there. And as that pot grows, you can reinvest more back into facilities, coaching, scholarships, and long-term club projects. That's how clubs move from scraping by to building a legacy. Now, the fourth issue is cash left on the table, criminal, all the missed opportunities. And this is a really big one because it's largely a time problem that's disguised as a revenue problem. Most club leaders are so buried in the day-to-day admin that they simply don't have the bandwidth to build out new revenue streams. So the club then misses out on thousands of pounds a year in opportunities that are just sitting there waiting to be grasped. Some examples: understanding what's selling well. If a particular hoodie or training top is flying out of the door, can you double down? Can you order more? Can you offer variants? Running simple surveys. Ask your members what they'd actually like to buy. Club kit bags, water bottles, caps, jackets. Don't guess. Let them tell you. And then you've got to come up with all the creative income streams, monthly lotteries, 100 clubs. Members pay in, they get assigned a number, and at the end of the month, you draw winners. Top 3 numbers win a cash prize that's, say, 50% of the pot. The club keeps the rest. Of course, always check your gambling laws locally. But clubs are doing this and it's working. Donations on autopilot. One day, mobilize your membership and your committee. Go around your community asking people for £2 a month, $5 a month as a standing donation to the local sports club. I've seen clubs unlock thousands of pounds a year doing this. And look at micro sponsorships. There's so many clubs who are sitting there still waiting for that single £2,000 sponsor that might never come. Instead, go after 100 people at £20. It's more conversations, but a straighter path from A to Z. And you can, in fact, even consider it as an upsell to your donation drive that we just discussed. And then we have local grants, council grants, regional funds, national lottery grants. And here's the fun bit. You've now got tools like ChatGPT that can literally train on your club structure, your region, your sport, and have it help you to draft and refine a grant application. And then there's fantasy gamification. Again, this is included in some team management apps, including PLAI. And players score points against their performance every week. So after selecting their best team at the club, they'll move up and down a leaderboard. Members pay to join, the technology manages the game, and the club enjoys the new revenue. Plus, it keeps club engagement fun, and it brings people into your digital space more often. It means they're more likely to give availability, more likely to buy things from your digital team shop. Are you doing enough events, quiz nights, race nights, gamified casino nights? Again, check your gambling laws. Off-season brunches, golf days where the club keeps a 20% margin on packages, overseas tours with a healthy margin. Parents especially will pay if the value is there and the experience is strong. Are there any new competitions or tournaments, holiday camps that you can run within the club? And we spoke earlier about endowment funds or physical investments, ring fencing certain proceeds and putting them into vehicles that will yield 5 to 8% every single year. All of that is possible when you get out of the admin swamp and free up some time to think creatively. The fifth financial problem that I see in clubs is that most clubs are working in seasons, not years. Money floods in at the start of the season with annual memberships, maybe some early events. And then it dries up when the sport goes into its off-season. Cash flow peaks and crashes. Now, let me be clear, there's still absolutely a place for the traditional lump sum annual membership, and you should encourage it. If someone can pay the full year up front, great. Offer an early bird discount, preferential rates for full season payment. Cash in the club's pocket is significantly better than it sitting somewhere else. But for everyone else, the conversation in 2026 has got to shift towards subscriptions, 12-month membership cycles with recurring revenue, paid monthly or quarterly, and it must be on autopilot. This is critical. The money should be pulled from the member's card, debit or credit, and dropped straight into the club's bank account. No manual intervention from the club or from them, because every point of intervention is friction. Every please log in and pay, or can you remember to transfer me the money this week? It reduces your revenue. So the message here really is simple. Automate, 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 especially with payments. But to achieve this, you have to lean into technology. Now, of course, to get this right, you need time. And this is where most clubs break. We go into clubs and look under the hood and we see a version of the same picture almost every single time. 10 plus WhatsApp groups for different teams or age groups, coaches or committees, multiple Excel or Google Sheets files floating around in different inboxes, maybe a Trello or an Asana Kanban board for selections. We're manually auditing bank statements to see who's paid and who hasn't. There's emails, phone calls, texts, social media DMs. The club is effectively being run across 7 to 10 different platforms. And people then sit there wondering why they're so burnt out. It's not that the club is too busy. It's that the club is too fragmented. You've got to work towards one source of truth. It's the magic pill. If you want to get your time back, you need to move towards that sole source of truth. What does that mean? Well, one central place where you handle everything. Communications, events, fixtures and availability and team selections, payments, a central hub for member data, registration forms, medical information, safeguarding detail. One central place for galleries, updates, results. And yes, that means leaning into digital tools. It's unavoidable. Team management apps, club operating systems, whatever you choose. If you're still trying to operate a modern club on WhatsApp and spreadsheets alone, you are miles behind the leaders in this space already, some of whom will be your competitors. Now, with any of these services, obviously there's a cost. Usually it looks like 3 to 5% on each transaction, depending on the region, depending on the partner. And I know what happens at most committee tables. We can't lose 4% on processing fees, but here's the perspective shift. Digital payments reduce leakage and increase time. It's a fact. We've seen the data. If your club doesn't know its numbers, chances are that you're in that 14% leakage territory we spoke about earlier. Now, just imagine you move to a digital payment gateway and bring that leakage down to, say, under 2%. You've just reclaimed around 12% of revenue that was previously disappearing. Take off your 4% in processing fees, you're still 8% better off than you were before. That's massive. And that's before we even talk about the hours that you're saving by not chasing payments, the clarity with your reporting, the trust that you build with parents and members because everything is so visible and transparent. So it's not just a cost, it's an investment. It gives you time back, it unlocks new revenue, and it creates a digital shared space that fosters community and engagement. And it doesn't have to be PLAI. Obviously, I'm completely biased. Whether it's us or someone else, what matters the most is that you actually take it seriously. One word of caution though, be very careful about signing up to heavy monthly or annual subscriptions that lock your club into risk. Platforms that are subscription free and transaction based, like PLAI and a couple of others in the market, are often much safer for community clubs because they only make money when you make money first. No fee if you're not getting paid. If your club isn't generating revenue, you're not paying out any big licensing fees just to keep the lights on. That's how it should be for your chosen digital tool. Shared incentive, shared growth, collaboration, not a simple provision of services. So, bottom line on time, streamline your admin, move towards one source of truth, and lean into tech. Automate as much as possible, especially payments. A centralized, streamlined program with automation built in will give you 6 to 10 hours a week back easily, and that's where the magic begins. So now we move on to the third pillar, which is people and community, because money and systems are useless without humans that care. Now, here are some of the hard truths. People are less inclined to volunteer their time than ever before. People are busier than ever before. They've got families, careers, financial pressures, cost of living is up, work hours are up, stress is up. These are facts. And many clubs have just quietly forgotten the importance of fostering community. I think for a lot of club leaders, the day-to-day reality is this: you're tired, you're burnt out, you're overworked, and probably feeling undervalued. And when you're in that state, the first thing that disappears is often kindness. It's the soft stuff, the conversations, the small gestures, the warm welcome, the thank yous. All of that gets pushed aside because you're just trying to get through the next task. But what we forget is that kindness is the glue that holds community clubs together. So what does kindness look like in a grassroots sports club? Well, let's make this real and practical. Number one, families. Let's speak transparently. Every club likes to say we're a family club, but do you actually act like one? Do wives, girlfriends, husbands, partners, children feel genuinely welcome at the club? Do you know all of their names? Do you speak to them? Are there spaces and events designed with them in mind? If you're a male-heavy club, have you ever run a proper ladies' day? Not just as a token charity event, but something that genuinely celebrates the women around the club and raises funds at the same time. If you're a female-dominant club, be it hockey, netball, football, cricket, what's your version of that? How do you champion the men and the families who support your players? Spouses and families are critical to a positive, inclusive, kind community. If they feel like outsiders, the players' engagement drops. If they feel valued, everybody leans in. Secondly, you've got to be selective about who you bring into the club. And this sounds controversial, but it's important. So, unpopular opinion, you need stronger qualification and vetting processes for new members. Will they fit, align, and mold to what your club stands for? Are they likely to give back to the club, or are they just another taker? Will they respect the badge, which is what my clubs always used to say when I was growing up in my sport? But it's definitely better to grow slowly with the right people than quickly with the wrong ones. And a club with 100 A-list people who give back and contribute and care will always outperform a club with 10 A-list, 50 B-list, and 500 C-list passengers when it comes to culture and community. And another massive component that has been lost over time is the small human touches from leaders. So imagine this. You get a message from your captain the day before a game. And he says, hey, just wanted to say that you've been picked because we really value what you bring to the team. Your role tomorrow is X, Y, Z. You're really important to this group and I can't wait to see you out there. Now, that message takes 30 seconds to send, but the impact is massive. People want to feel seen, not just selected. And then we have part 4, regular short surveys and acting on them most critically. If you want to build a community, you've got to listen. So set up quarterly micro surveys, under 2 minutes to complete and a maximum of 10 questions. Each survey focused on a very specific pillar of the program. That could be clothing and merchandise, maybe it's facilities, events and socials, match day experience, junior development, whatever it might be. The key is don't just collect data, act on the top recurring themes and then tell people that's what you're doing and the reasons why, i.e. you asked and we're doing it. Here's what you told us. Here's what we're doing about it. That builds trust, but you have to see it through because if you don't, well, that has the opposite effect. That erodes trust. And part 5, you've got to give back more than you're looking to take. Clubs and people that win long term are the ones that give back more than they seek in return. When you put payments on autopilot through digital tools, something subtle but really powerful happens. The tone of your communication shifts from "you're in arrears again, can you pay me please?" And it changes to "how can we support you next? What would you like to see improved? What can we do better for you and your family?" Because you're now not constantly chasing and nagging, you've made space for service-orientated conversations, and that's where loyalty thrives. I talk a huge amount about the kindness flywheel. Why am I banging on about kindness? Because when people feel supported and appreciated and true parts of the community, well, 3 things will happen. They'll spend more time at the club, they'll spend more money at the club, whether it's at the bar, in the shop, within events, and they'll volunteer more time and energy in return as well. Add that up, and this is where the kindness flywheel exists. Better experience equals more engagement, means more revenue, more reinvestment back into the club, and a better experience again. And the cycle continues, but it all started with kindness and community being a focus. So this year, here's your action plan to dominate the sporting season. And if you can enact these 3 core shifts, you're going to be in a great place. Number 1, you've got to streamline the admin, especially payments. Move towards one source of truth, centralized communications, fixtures, payments, and member data. Automate subscriptions and repeat transactions. This creates time. 2, use your newfound hours to build new revenue. If you implement this properly, you could easily free up 6 to 10 hours a week for your key leaders. Use that time to launch 1 or 2 new revenue streams. It could be new events, lotteries, micro sponsorships, tours, camps. And you need to fix the leaks in your balance sheet as well. You can apply for new grants, lean into ChatGPT and see what's available. But by doing this, the additional revenue you generate, plus what you'll be reducing in leakage, will almost certainly cover any costs for your new club management tool. And you'll now have an absolute foundation for growth. The tools pay for themselves if you use them properly. Number 3, put an absolute focus on kindness and community. With the time and financial stress reduced, you now have space to talk to parents more, invest in families, engage with your retired members and your life members, welcome new people properly. Can you run events that are more about connection, not just income? Because if you elevate the human side of the club, people will stay longer, give more, and bring others with them. So why am I doing all of this? Well, I've worked in global community sport for 15 years. I've run, built, grown, and directed some of the biggest sporting programs in the world at some of the strongest clubs in Asia, in Europe, in Australia. I'm a husband, a father. I've played almost 100 international matches in my sport of cricket. And sport has been my life's work. And I understand granularly the entire sporting spectrum, and I know things that volunteers don't. Thank you. Now, sport was the vehicle that took me out of my community and into the big wide world, and that started at a tiny little cricket club in the UK, and I'll never, ever, ever stop giving back to the community and the industry that I care about the most, which is community sport. Clubs like yours and people like you. And when you combine smarter cash, better use of time, and a renewed focus on people and community, you don't just scratch your way to survival. You set your club up for an incredible year of growth, not just on a spreadsheet, but in how it feels to walk through the door, to wear the shirt, to bring your kids down on a Sunday morning to play sport. That's the real ROI of great club management. Now, in 2 weeks' time, I'm sitting down with presidents of two of the biggest rugby clubs in Asia. And we're going to dive deep into one of the most time-destroying parts of club operations in the early season, which is membership models. We're going to challenge the archaic, overcomplicated ways clubs have been charging people for decades and explore smarter, simpler, more sustainable models that work better for clubs and for members. So if today was about the big picture of cash, time, and people, that episode is going to be one about rewiring one of the biggest levers that you have financially. So make sure you subscribe and tune in. Share this with someone on your committee. Maybe even bring it to the next club meeting, because 2026 doesn't have to be cash poor, time poor, people poor for your club. You can change that story, and you can start now.